I think when I joined the IAS, it was 1982. I was in Haryana cadre, came here after marrying into Assam, fellow officer. And then I had no idea about how the government works. I was a science background person. So it took me some time to understand what happens. But each and every time I found there's some corruption or some badmashi going on in the system. Okay. After some time, it became so bad that even the Chief Minister, Hiteshwar Saikia, he was asking me to get some, cement contract to somebody who is not the lowest being the cement corporation at that time. I was Director of Rural Development of Assam. And things had become so bad that I realized that this is something really wrong with the system. It is not possible that this should happen everywhere. If something goes, because Indians in our family and sure in everybody's family, we are very honest people, we're good people. There is no history in India of chronic corruption. The fact that such corruption is happening and the people are being looted at all levels, and this is, I'm talking of officer levels, I've got people arrested, etc., for corruption. Corruption became a big issue for me in my life, so I went around investigating the cause. So I had gone to the USA finally to study a PhD in economics, and I saw by 1997, middle of 1997, I realized. So you can imagine 15 years it took me to understand what is the problem. So I realized that this is all because of our socialist model. And I think I sort of summarize socialism. Basically, socialism is when the government starts taking over all the main functions of society and says to the people that I will look after you. You just let me do the work and I will take care of you. I will make the shirt and I will give it to you at a low cost. But that actually doesn't really happen. In all cases where the government does things that it should not, we should be reminded of our own culture, which is, jahan ka raja ho vyapari, wahan ki praja ho bhikhari. Which means that if the king is a trader, the whole society will become a beggar. So that is what happened in India, and that is exactly what socialism does. It destroys the incentives for work. It takes over taxes by the government bureaucrat who has very little incentive to help. So every government bureaucrat you appoint will first of all look after himself. He will say, I want a big car, I want a big house, etc. before he starts doing any work. On the other hand, if you are a private sector business, first of all, you will make sure your factory is working, your workers are working, you will live in a small little juggi, and you will make sure everything is happening, and then there is profit, then you will finally build your house. You don't start by first building a huge koti for yourself and a big car and fancy business class flights, and then you start looking after the factory. And this is therefore many other reasons. I'm simplifying. It is not practical for the government to run any business. It is not a good idea at all. There is enormous amount of evidence wherever socialist countries have, socialism has been adopted. For example, we have USSR, which collapsed. We have the Eastern Europe that collapsed. We have North Korea today. We have Venezuela today. We have Cuba. We have enormous number of amounts of evidence about the fact that socialism can never work. I realized this after all the studies that I did, and so at that point I was still not going to be political, and I was not going to leave my job. I was still come back and try to see if I can help here. But then I realized after some time, won't go into details, but then I realized that it has to be political. And there was a particular event which happened in my life, and then I said I have to do political work. And to do political, you have to leave the job. Okay. And I tried to then start a Liberal Party, and then I later on went to Australia and still tried to do the work. It did not happen, but anyway, that's a longer story where I finally did get a party happening, and now we have this Swarn Bharat Party, which we are taking to the people of India with the goal that we are offering complete change of the system. We are offering India a complete change, a total and comprehensive change of the system. And I always say, India's private sector is the world's very best. There is nothing in the world that comes close to India in the private sector. How good is our private sector? Given the constraints that we face, they still manage to produce things. When the electricity fails, they will give us a generator. They will give us an inverter. So every house has a generator, inverter, or something like that. When the water supply fails, they will give us a bottled water. We are one of the world's largest consumers of bottled water because government cannot provide water. Okay, when government was managing telecom, we could not get a telephone for 2 years. But today, our private sector has created such a thing that we get the best data, the highest amount of data we can download for the cheapest cost in the whole world. Nothing is there to compete. When the government was running airlines, it was going in loss. When the private sector came in, now we are able to go to 3,000 rupees, 4,000, we can go to Delhi, which is the price of a railway ticket at that time, a second class railway ticket. So private sector in India is the most stupendously best private sector. Let us hand over everything to the private sector. But who is the private sector? What I ask people is, who is the private sector? Private sector is not some other sector. Private sector are the Nagrik, the citizens, the people. We want people to do everything that they can. That is what is called People's Party. We say, people, we hand back your freedom to you. So what I'm trying to bring here is a complete reform, change of the system. This is in summary why I am back in India and why I continue to operate this party. And we have Pankaj Das now as the leader for Assam. Yes, indeed. I actually did that quite extensively, and by the time I left the job in 18 years, 18 years in the IAS is a very senior position. I was a commissioner. I had access to the Prime Minister's office at any time, not personally Prime Minister, but the Prime Minister's office, which means the Joint Secretary Ashok Saikia, for example, was our Assam cadre, and I was a very close friend with him. So, and then my batchmates were deputy secretaries, and so I was in the PMO all the time when I was still in the service, and I kept on asking them, can we do these reforms? I went to the Planning Commission with NC Saxena was the secretary. He was again a very close friend. By the way, I also taught in the National Academy of Mussoorie, so he was our director at that time. He was also my teacher when I was joined the IAS. And NC Saxena also basically said this cannot be done. What I was talking about was simple reforms. Essentially, every bureaucrat said this is not possible in India because the politician will not accept it. So I realized quite clearly that being in the IAS is a total dead end. It is like wasting my life permanently. The good thing happened is that once I left the IAS and I said, I don't care whether I get a job anywhere in the world or whatever, I just leave and go. Went to Australia without any job. 3 months we hunted for a job. I finally found some small job. And then I finally got a job as an economist in the treasury, which is really good because I've learned so much. The police comes to you today and you run because you're scared. But sorry, but police all over the world are actually, they are paid to help you. You go to Australia, they'll actually help you. The police are not going to attack you. Out here, we are afraid the police will attack us. What kind of a country have we created? This is not, can you explain to me any difference between British rule and the current rule? There is no difference at all. The only one is that there is a brown sahib at the top. But the British we were scared of police. Today also we are scared of police. Everything is the same because IAS, ICS, all the same. The DC office, the same. Everything is exactly the same that the British left for us. We want to liberate the country. This is the freedom movement of the country. And by the way, when I talk about freedom, when people talk today, the government says, no, you can't talk. Why? You put something on Facebook and say, boom, you are arrested. Who is our servant to tell us what we shall say? The American law is very clear. The Congress shall not make any law to abridge the liberties of the people, like to speak and so on. There shall not be a law. No, you government cannot restrict us. We, the people in the constitution, have decided that we will give you this power and you will never restrict us. Never, ever, ever. When we are at the bottom of the world on all indicators of performance, all indicators of freedom, we need to change. We can't keep doing the same thing we did for 70 years. Time has come. And that is why we are bringing this new, completely revolutionary message for India. It's not revolutionary for America. They had this revolution in 1976 when they understood the meaning of freedom. But today we have to bring real freedom to the people. What Rabindranath Tagore says, the heaven of freedom. Let the mind be free, fear, without any fear, and say what it wants. If I want to criticize Muhammad, which I do, if I want to criticize some religious, Hindu religious thing, or I want to criticize another Christian or something, or I want to criticize anything for that matter, and I do. And that's my personal view, by the way, not the party view. I have the full right and freedom to do it. The fact that it may hurt your sentiment is your problem. You stop listening to me. Go and do something else. Ignore me. Or object or rebut my objections, You can't go around, people can't go around burning my books or doing this or tamashabazi and so on. Then the government must stop it. What I'm saying is pretty revolutionary for India. You can understand. I'm talking of freedom. Freedom to speak, freedom to think, freedom to write, freedom to wear beef. I eat beef. What's the problem? How does it matter to you if I eat beef? India has had beef eating for the last thousands of years. I have investigated, published enough documentation. I have researched. There is also abundant research. India was a beef eating country. Some people decided not to eat beef. By all means, don't eat beef. But let others do it. How can RSS come and say, no, that you will not do it? I don't agree with this approach, right? So we are saying complete freedom, total, complete, absolute freedom. And also complete power to the people. The government will not interfere in what people do until they actually physically harm someone. There's a guy called Julian Simon, one of the greatest economists in the world, and he wrote a book called The Ultimate Resource. When he says ultimate resource, he's not talking about gold. He's not talking about diamonds and platinum and all these kind of things. He's talking about humans. Humans are the ultimate resource. We have the greatest resource in the world. Nobody comes close to us. Even China, we have got a long history and so on. We should liberate our people to think. Let them think anything. Let them create anything. Create a Facebook, create a Google, create anything. That's all being done in America because there is freedom. But nothing happens in India. Why? There is no freedom. People cannot think. They are taught to repeat what they are taught like rote thinking. But in America and Australia, children are not taught like that. They are taught to think. They are asked to tell us what they think about something, not what somebody else thinks about it. They are asked to be individuals. They grow up. By the time they are young, they are actually 20. By the age of 20, they are producing Facebook. Okay. Let me tell you, corruption is flourishing right now as we speak in every single corner of India. I have gone and taken reports from every corner. Every corner, the bureaucracy is still corrupt as possible. To get even Assam, I was saying this is a BJP government, let's say. Bridge has been made in this Ulubari area, and I've been told that complete corruption has taken place in that bridge. And in fact, Pankaj Das will personally tell you that people have come to him saying, give me a bit of a project which I can then sell to the government and make money. And there are people making money from fake projects, and therefore corruption is going on non-stop in the footpaths, in the roads, in every single part. The entire engineering system is corrupt. PWD system is 100% corrupt. Please record this, let the PWD know. They know it. The police system is 100% corrupt. Every single policeman is giving the money. OC is giving money to the SP, and SP is giving the money upwards. 100%. The idea that the government, BJP government, is not corrupt is absurd. You cannot but be corrupt. I have explained in my book, which I wrote in 2008, that it is impossible to be honest in India. Impossible to be a politician. So the idea that BJP government is honest is such an absolute nonsense that I cannot even imagine that somebody will think of it. The people know it on a daily basis. So let us not worry about that Modi's corruption claim, which is bogus. Let us look at the actual performance, which is basically the same footpath. I say Modi can't make a footpath. The man can't make a footpath. What the hell can he do? If you can't make a bloody footpath, what are you trying to do? You are trying to say you are incredible India and great India, but you can't make a bloody footpath. You cannot get people, all your IAS officers, all your IIT people, all your ministers, everybody to make a single footpath in India. No, this is wrong. They are very wrong. Our party fully and comprehensively rejects the Citizenship Amendment Bill. Look, there are three parts. There is another part of the bill which relates to OCI. I have not paid attention to that. There are two sections of that. It's a very just 1.5 page amendment, okay? And we have, in fact, I've just will be publishing in my Times of India blog a comprehensive article on this topic either today or tomorrow. And I'm trying to see if I can write for Assam Tribune or Sentinel my views, so party's views on this. So there are two fundamental issues with the Citizenship Act. First, it includes religion in the matter of citizenship. Citizenship Act as it stands today is not religious. There's no mention of religion, okay? Our constitution does not mention religion anywhere except says that you must protect minorities and so on. There's no mention of religion. The caste is mentioned as scheduled caste, that's not a religious direct mention of religion. When we start mentioning religion in a government document, in a government act, that means people's rights are determined by their personal belief. And remember, personal belief is constantly changing. Today I may be Hindu, born Hindu, tomorrow I decide to be Muslim. Third day I decide to be Christian. Fourth day I decide to be something else. My personal belief should determine what I get. That means how in heaven's name, and can you determine what I believe? You cannot as a government. You don't even know what's religion. So the idea of religion contaminating, this was the first principle of liberalism. in 1688, when you saw the great revolution in England, when the king was replaced by the parliament, then you found that the first thing that was John Locke's, so John Locke was driving, it was separation of church and the state. That means the church would not fiddle and meddle with what people thought and believed. So religion and this thing meddling is the most dangerous thing that we are seeing. So this I'm seeing it as a precursor to Hindutva ideology, precursor to Hindu Pakistan. This is not India. India has for thousands of years welcomed everybody from every religion. We are completely the melting pot of the world. Anybody can come from anywhere. We are a different country. We do not believe in this kind of rubbish of religion as a country. This is not Hinduism. If you were to be Hindu, you would never do this. So these guys are claiming to be Hindu, they're doing the very wrong thing. So we oppose that on many, many grounds, but the religion is the first ground. The second ground is that this will give the opportunity for people who have been specifically excluded by the Assam Accord. I'll go back to 5.8 of Assam Accord. Under Article 5.8 or Clause 5.8 of the Assam Accord, there is a clear requirement that all people after 25 March 1971 will be identified and expelled under the law, and that means they will be expelled out of the country. Okay, the fact that this is a complicated exercise, I will mention that because I know it's very difficult. However, but that is a law. The accord is saying that we accepted as refugees, genuine refugees, because of the war. We accepted everybody till the war finished. After the war, no, that's economic migrant, we don't want you. We have no capacity to hold you, please go. And that was our agreement with the government of India, and we did it from Assam. I was also, by the way, I was the SD of Guwahati when the Assam Accord was signed, and Rajiv Gandhi was all around me and all these ministers. So I was deeply involved in that stage, and all the ASU people and IGP were very close I knew them. I know the Assam Accord deeply. Now, what I'm trying to say is the Assam Accord says that anybody after this date has to be expelled. But what this bill does, very dangerous. It is not very specific. It is not very clearly defined, because very complicated the way they have done things. But there is a potential for these people to then apply for citizenship because they get exemption under the Passport Act or some other act, Foreigners Act, etc. Then they can apply for citizenship. And I understand that one of the local ministers has been saying that the Bengali Hindu Bangladeshis are going to be absorbed under this particular provision. I think the Assamese people are very, very right to object, because the government of India signed an accord. The BJP committed to the accord. They keep repeating, we are agreed to the accord. Well, the accord says that all these people have to be deported. Now you're saying we will allow some of them, just because of their religion, to apply for citizenship. This is backdoor politics, okay? This is dirty politics. This is making India a Hindutva nation. It is giving different rights to Muslims, different rights to people based on religion. It is complete, utter nonsense. My view is that the upper house should not pass it. Okay, it's right now with the upper house. If the upper house makes the blunder to pass it, I'm confident that the Supreme Court will reject this and repeal this act, or reject this act as unconstitutional. Look, we have only started activity in the last 2 years. In fact, less than 2 years, okay? Our position is, and one of the reasons why we are so slow in our take-up is because all the big companies, and I talk of a large number of them I've met, the big businesses, and in fact, I went to Switzerland last year. I was invited to attend one of the largest business conferences, and I spoke to all the businesses about this party. All the businesses of India, big businesses, are 99.9% corrupt. They are hands in glove with the corrupt people. The corrupt people at the top. They make a lot of money. Nirav Chow, Modi, these are just examples. They are not interested in changing the system. Their children are studying abroad. They have got mentions in India. They are getting servants in India. They don't want to change the system. They are very happy. So we are not funded by anybody. That means we have to go to the people directly, which we are starting. For that, we need to find leaders who understand our points. Okay, these ideas are revolutionary. I'm sure you understand by now that nobody in India has ever said these things. We are saying these things for the first time. But to say that, we need people who actually know what to say. So we have so far found only about 5 people who will contest our Lok Sabha elections for next 2019. So we are very slow. But as I said, we have started. And nothing is slow once the people want it. If the people really want it, they want change, they want to become better than Singapore and Melbourne, and I can guarantee that. We can definitely and 100% without doubt, because the private sector here is so great. We just give a lot of things to the private sector. Boom, it's all done. And so many policy changes that I've talked about. So I have no doubt at all that once it starts, this party will grow into the National Party of India. It is going to take time at the moment because we started very slow. Because all the business are crony capitalists, they are corrupt. We don't get support. And all the intellectuals are socialists. They benefit from the current system. They are giving some fake talks and conversations. So we are going straight to the people, okay? Our job is we are going to villages. So day after tomorrow, I'm going to the villages of UP. And I'm going to spend 4 days there. And by talking to villages, you can imagine it's very slow. It takes time, okay? One village at a time. But people are so keen today. The other day I received a call from Kanpur. They want 50, they are preparing 50 seats for 2022 elections there. They want to join our party. I said, okay, I'll come to Kanpur, I'll talk to you. I'm going to Kanpur to talk to them in early February. So the demand for this party is growing, but it started recently. And by the way, I want to also add here, I have tried all these Arvind Kejriwals and all these fellows, okay? They are not interested in these ideas. They are very much part of the current system. They do not talk about changing the system. They will simply say, I'm a good man, so I will deliver better results. And I'm telling you that you can be as good as possible. I was pretty good, you know. I was honest, I was removing the corrupt people. I had created a fierce psychosis among people. That in my Borpeta district, for example, corruption stopped, completely stopped. You ask the people, I was DC there. And that meant, but that disappeared the moment I go. You cannot run the system just because you're honest. And I could still not make the footpaths, okay? So my point is that you can be honest, but you are busy chasing the tail. Like Secretary Education and Commissioner, I was going to High Court all the time because so much corruption is going on. We have got corruption cases against inspectors, schools, this school. So we have no time. I could not change the system as an honest man. We have to change the system as a country. The whole country has to decide we want to change. And only that is possible through parliament. Okay, so my belief is our first goal is the parliament and second is the state. So this is all going to be a very slow, but I can only assure you that once people start understanding, they believe this is the right thing. And we have offered in Moscow, I had a meeting, I said, look, I've explained, ask any questions. If you think this is wrong, please tell me, I will try to change and I will improve. But I have scoured the entire world and I'm bringing the very best ideas to you. This is the very best you can find in the whole world. I've written a book on economics for children and the world's best Nobel Prize winning economist, Vernon Smith, calls it a great book. Gurcharan Das, who is one of the best, he calls my book something every Indian should read. I'm trying to bring the best ideas of the world to India. Okay, now it's up to Indians to decide. This is not, and by the way, I'm not a citizen of India anymore. The circumstances I won't go into too little time, but then after all this effort, I finally had to change my citizenship. But I'm an overseas citizen. I'm a very active part of India in that sense, like a permanent resident kind of role. So I believe that the party's growth for this Lok Sabha will be very slow, most likely. But if the people really want it, they can make it faster.